Here is Skeeve Stevens.
I think I'm going to make it up as I go along. So I've done a similar talk to this about, I think it was October last year in Melbourne at the Commsday Congress down there, and it's been a bit updated. So what I'm here briefly, for those that don't understand elastic fabrics, I'm going to talk a little bit about elastic fabrics, what they are, cloud ISPs, what's coming, and carriers. Ignore them at your peril. So briefly, what is an elastic fabric? Well, they're removing one of the last barriers of full elastic IT. Everything else from licensing and the software to infrastructure, compute servers, everything compute that we look at today, everything is being able to be purchased on demand. The days where you paid $2,500 for Adobe Creative Suite is gone. You now rent it by the month or by the year. Every bit of software in our company is actually, we don't purchase anything. We all rent it by the month. So everything is going down that path. The last remaining bastion in the entire end-to-end chain is really been around the telco last mile and the tails and the infrastructure. I've got their revolution with an asterisk now in connectivity and telecommunications. The reason I say revolution is revolution and versus evolution. They're a bit different. A lot of people would say that the iPhone is revolutionary. I say it's not. It was evolutionary. People already did everything the iPhone does, just in different ways. The ISP industry and have been playing with peering and bilateral peering and that for a very long time, cross-connecting in data centers. This is a new way of doing things that the actual enterprises are now starting to get access to. And it's going to be changing things, and it is already changing things in a very big way. So elastic fabrics are characterized by on-demand provisioning that is flexible from anywhere from 60 seconds from people like Megaport, depending on the responses, to different timeframes. It's fully automated, orchestration platforms, cheap pay-as-you-go pricing. So Megaport across town, $200 a month for 5 gig VLAN, or you want to buy it by the day for $20. Other people are emulating similar things, and I've even heard people talking about hourly. You know? No or short-term contracts, so different people do different things. Megaport's leading the market at the moment in no contracts for pretty much anything. You want to have it for a day, you want interstate capacity, you want a whole bunch of things, there is no contracts. Extreme speeds, gone are the day. I mean, we're still talking about 12 meg DSL and a whole bunch of other things here. That is nothing compared to what we're doing at the moment in the ISP space with elastic fabrics like Megaport and others, where we're talking, in theory, capacities of 100 gigs or more if you're bonding your pipes together. Very common. I mean, I run a whole bunch of ISPs, and we use Megaport extensively to move transit and different capacity around, and we're bringing up gig VLANs for days or months at a time, and for extremely cheap price and for very, very high and awesome performance. One of the big characteristics of elastic fabrics is the marketplaces and being able to have a service. No one's really done it well yet. At the moment, you kind of join, you have to kind of find what's there, but expect that to be a major part. So in the elastic fabric of people like Azure and AWS, you go to the marketplace. What do I want? There's just so much platforms there. This was a predictable eventuality. People keep stupidly saying to me that, oh, but consumers buy differently to businesses. And I'm like, businesses don't buy anything. It's just filled by a bunch of consumers. There's a reason that things like Windows 2000 died. It's because it's not what people used at home. People want to use at work what they use at home. They want to consume in the same way that they use at home, which is why people have, on a mass scale, adopted cloud computing. They want to buy what they need when they need it. Telecommunications is just the last bit in the enterprise and government IT infrastructure and small business. So this is going to drive an enterprise service delivery revolution. The services that are starting to come at the moment are astounding, and we'll talk a bit more about those. So some of the fabric providers today, you've got Megaport, IX Australia, which is like a sort of community peering thing. They do cross connects as well. I've got PACnet 10 or 10. whatever they're going to call it, since the packet name apparently disappears very soon. The other question will be, what did they do with it? That's a quite extensive network, a bit private, but I'd like to see what Telstra does with it. Equinix Cloud Exchange, a good concept, but seemed to be limited to Equinix themselves. NextGen, there was apparent announcements a little while ago that they were going to do something. Still waiting for them to do something. Now, in others, I can tell you now that I've consulted with at least half a dozen companies that are ploughing millions into researching and developing and designing these kind of networks. Some are private in that they're scaled for targeting their particular customers, and there are ones that are looking at the open market. And this is not just Australia. So we've been consulting in Singapore, in different other Asian countries, Japan. There's a few different people all looking at the concept. We are cutting edge here in Australia when it comes to elastic fabrics. And Megaport, with Denver in charge, we'll be taking that to the US and Europe and other places like that, and it'll be like the Hills Hoist, one of those Australian revolutions that we kind of brought to the market, and I'm really looking forward to it. So I'm not going to go through everything here. There's a lot of things, but you can download slides later. But what's available now today? A lot. All the cloud, I say direct access, I find that one of the most important. I don't care about public cloud, I care about where I can have a fibre, 10 gig VLAN across and move my entire infrastructure. I am the little ISP guy, but I've been starting to work with a lot of big corporates that are going, Skeeve, I spend $5 million a year on CapEx. What should I do with my $5 million next year? And it's actually very complicated, and as someone who's not great with math, but great with logic, it's a lot of hours talking to CFOs and accounts people trying to explain to them how to budget for elastic. So I've got a customer that uses, in a peak, 1,000 servers on AWS during the day and 100, 200 at night. How do you plan for that? What's happening at different times of the year, different times of the day, all those kind of things. So that is really, really hard, and the customer has to really look inside themselves and also back about their how busy their business has been at different times and what are those events, and natural events, market events that can actually change that dramatically too, and can suddenly go, oh, there's another $75,000 in cost last month to meet that demand. But if I bought the hardware, or if I had static hardware, I would have been against the wall. So some things like core ISP infrastructure, so that's one of the things I'll be talking about in the cloud ISP in a minute. Physical infrastructure as a service. Sharing, multi-tenanting actual physical hardware, avoiding the CapEx. Storage providers, transit, tails, they're everyone. I can buy a tail in India and have it delivered by NTT over Megaport in Sydney. This is the sort of things you're starting to be able to do. Voice, SIP trunks, enterprise PABXs. I'm working with people that are actually talking the actual classic PABXs virtualized into data centers, and a company head office will have 400 handsets and no phone system. Just a VLAN with a phone VLAN heading over Megaport or Elastic Fabric into someone's multi-tenanted phone system somewhere else. CapEx gone. Video conferencing platforms, everything, CapEx gone. Just paid by the month. Virtual, physical, appliances, services, everything. So, and most of the stuff is available as white label, wholesale for other ISPs to deliver. Coming, enterprise targeted, especially those CapEx areas. Storage, vendor appliances, lots of hosted layer 2, layer 3 environments is one of the things I've been hearing the last couple of weeks, which I really like. More public cloud, enterprise cloud. You know, I've been involved in a few meetings with Salesforce, SAP, Adobe, didn't even know Adobe did it until a couple of weeks ago. And Oracle and a few others. Fujitsu, HP, IBM, they're all starting to go, hang on, if that's where the customers are, we'll just have a little plug-in and it's layer 2 connectivity. Hosted desktops. I know of someone at the moment that is looking at, that is a retail chain with, I think it's about 400 stores and about 900 terminals, POS terminals. So where it used to be embedded Windows 8 or, Windows 7 or XP, they'll actually be hosted externally. Easy to recover, easy to do a lot of different things. Upgrades. Hosted advertising platform was another one from a few weeks ago. So the cloud ISP, and this is one of the things that's interesting here. I brought up this idea in Melbourne. Now, I don't mean a cloud provider. I don't mean a reseller of Telstra or iSeek or anyone else. And I don't mean the old term VISP where you've got a guy who does business and his business is just hosted on your network and you deliver the services for him. I'm talking a real multi-carrier, self-managed, elastic infrastructure ISP, potentially with no hardware. I'm almost doing it. I'm doing it in partial deployments at the moment. I've got ISPs that have got very minimal equipment, hosting 10 to 20,000 services with 3 routers, and direct connected across into Amazon where all the servers are, into another cloud provider where I'm taking hosted LNS or hosted carrier grade NAT devices that I'm paying for what I need when I need it. I want to get to the point, and it's coming soon. I've just had a few great meetings with some people where I'd love to be able to sit down with someone and go, what do you want? You want some Opticom tails, NBN tails, DSL from here, whoever you want to take tails from. Here's your billing provider. Mark Fryenomiel was awesome. He said, Skeeve, when I did the presentation in Melbourne, he said, Skeeve, that's great. I can have an ISP billing instance up and running in 10 minutes. And I went, thank you. And everything else surrounding that, voice billing, I've been meeting with VoIP providers like my NetPhone and Symbio, and talking to them about getting these up and running, because a lot of the small vertical focused ISPs I want, I'm like, do not put voice infrastructure in. You're making no money off these things. Outsource it. Take it over Elastic Fabric and just keep minimal. You do run it. You still need an engineer to glue all this together. It's just a new kind of engineer. Yeah, I'm building them at the moment, and I think it was in October last year in Melbourne. The CTO of Cisco Australia told me that Cisco's virtualizing 41 different bits of hardware, switches, ASRs, firewalls, ASAs, everything is in the cloud. Why do I need to buy anything? I just create high capacity cross connects, 10, 20, 40 gig across these fabrics. I can spin up an ISP that will challenge a lot of the small players and potentially some of the larger ones, if you're going to be talking about the delivery of service, very quickly. So why? Rapid deployment. I'm hoping to be able to, if I make some deals and talk to a lot of people like Opticom and a few others, and say, okay, let's put in place, if I call a guy, what's the process to be one of your wholesale providers in 24 hours? What do you need? You know, and have here, tick, 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 bang, ISP. Imagine ISP. It's not the telco in a box style, we're talking real ISP in a box. No equipment failures, asterisks except theirs. Scalable capacity without hardware upgrades. Amazon, AWS, I just go restart, gig license, 10 gig license, whatever. Highly redundant multi-cloud regions. I'm building something at the moment which using 3 different cloud providers to diversify the core OS and container deployment. Even though they've got their own availability zone, I'm still using 3 different cloud providers, all hooked together over an elastic fabric. Minimising the business risk. No capex, get running real fast. And an ISP, they can test their business. If they can bring on and see how fast they can bring on customers very quickly. Global reach possibilities, replicatable. Everything I design is designed to be copy and pasted and can scale as it needs. Start small, scale very big. The bits. So there's lots of different bits there. You can look at the slide later. All the bits I put together, and it's all purchasable on demand. And one of the things I love, which Megaport's sort of facilitating at the moment, is what they call Mega Direct. So even if you are not in Megaport, Telstra wholesalers, Telstra, I want to buy some bandwidth of you Vocus or someone else that you're not on Megaport, I'll stick a cross connect physical from Megaport switch to you. You don't even know. When I first started doing Opticom for our customers, they weren't on Megaport yet. They are now. So I wasn't going to wait. I just ran cross connects to their POPs, and I'm taking all their tails in 3 different states over Megaport, delivering it all back to Sydney. They've caught up, all great now. Now I don't need to run my own cross connects, but anyone else who even is slow, I just won't even wait for you. Even if you think you're not going to deliver over the elastic fabrics, I'll take you over elastic fabric whether you like it or not, because it's just a cross connect. It's just a cable to you, you don't care. So, it kind of looks like this. There's many variations, obviously. You've got an elastic fabric or multiple in the middle. Take your tails, spin bits everywhere. And one of the things that's starting to happen, although you need a mega port or an actual thing into the elastic fabric, pretty soon they'll just allow you to do from, say, here, I'll just take a VXC from Opticom and push it straight into Amazon. I don't need to go into my equipment. It doesn't even need to. I don't even need to have a physical connectivity. That raises amazing potential for a new generation of integrators that don't have to have Cisco blah blah engineers or physical routers, 10 gig, 40 gig connections. You just find an integrator that's really great at selling something. It's got some smart conceptual engineers, cloud engineers, or whatever you want to call them, that can just move and cross-connect bits around, and instant, you know, and it could be as creative as you want, and there is so much coming online. So what doesn't work? The machine images, I'm still doing more versions. Juniper, like get your ass in the gear. I want your VMX. They I think it was December last year, they announced their virtual MX routers, you know. I'm waiting for that, and even if it's hosted on VMware, I'm loving the idea of VMware vCloud Air that was just announced. Damn it, if you're not going to stick it on Amazon, and you already have a machine image on VMware, great, I'll run it up there and just run across connected to them and back out, and take their capacity. Licensing could be nicer. Cloud providers, networking, Amazon, to be honest, it sucks. Layer 3 does not help me do my job. VXLANs is helping a bit. Being able to move things around, but it's still like real layer 2 to images. And they said they're getting there. Interconnection, pricing could be better. Technology, terminology is a pain. Everyone I talk to just tries to call it something different. And you have to, when you're dealing with everyone, and everyone's calling something different, it's, what's he call that, what's he call that? And your documentation just looks crazy. It's like, I'm going to create 7 of these, and there's just 5 different names for the thing. And the minimal expertise, help and support. There's no book on how to do this. You can't even put a job out on Seek and find someone who's actually good at this stuff. You've got to find your good engineers and train them up. Now, this is a warning to big ISPs, infrastructure providers and carriers. If you don't care about elastic fabrics, you will soon. If you're not selling via elastic fabrics, your competition will be, or already is. It's expanding globally. Equinix is global. I think it's global with their cloud, their offering, Cloud Exchange. Megaport is just on its horse. It's on its way. Singapore, Hong Kong, they've already mentioned Europe, US. They're taking this globally. This is a revolution that nobody has an argument against except the people who want to sell lots of capacity that aren't selling as much fibre and things like that. I just think people need to look at it differently. Ease of migration, to you or from you. Think of mobiles. People will be able to move very quickly in this world, just like everything else we do. I don't want Netflix this month, I want Stan next month. I want something else next month. Change anything you want, anytime you want, with the way this cloud world is working. Hardware vendors are rushing like crazy. There are so many things in the pipeline. I'm a Juniper partner and Cisco partner, and I get announcements of this is coming, and it's actually extremely exciting, the amount of machine images that are running up. I was just building an Arista network at the moment. I was able to get VEOS, their operating system, and just spin it up in VMware and have 20 routers, and I was able to build everything. Just fantastic. You can ignore it, but others are already servicing the market, your market. If you don't start playing around in this space and think you can only sell your own products, wholesalers, you need to do this. Sorry, the wholesalers, you'll still sell your tails, but all your value add, where you sell your Telstra tails directly to the customer, and now you've got to sell it at a wholesale price, all your cream is gone, because people will be able to buy these things wholesale from you. With regulatory in Australia, you have no choice. The enterprises are already buying services. I've put dozens of people on these elastic fabrics, and it's new. It's like wander in, what can I buy? How can I use this? IT staff are still spinning up their ideas, and I do a lot of just conceptual dreaming, whiteboards. What could we do? And as we know, as a lot of the engineers here, layer 2, do forget anything over this. The other thing is, why not? Most people, why not, is I want to protect my revenue, etc. You know, and so how you need to change the big players. You're going to have to innovate, or you will die. You need to fix some of these things. Your speed of your legals. That's just stupid. I had to sign NDAs the other day to see a large company I won't name, whose logo's on the front of this thing. I had to sign NDAs just to see their brochures. Like, get over it, seriously. Fix some of these things. I mean, to sign up, I think it's new Telstra wholesale customers, like 6 weeks of paperwork. And Telstra's, I mean, I'm not picking on Telstra here because a lot of big systems are bad. But I'm like, okay, why don't you pre-provision some wholesale customers and just rename them so you can have them in an hour. And they're like, oh, our systems are embedded, we can't change the ABN afterwards, and we're screwed. That's your own problem. Fix these things. Speed of provisioning services. Like seriously, fibre and all these things, a lot of these things you can spin up so quickly. Orchestrate, automate, or die. Contract terms, get over your 3 years. I recommend to my customers, if you're trying to sell anything more than 6 months, barely 12, do not accept it. I don't care who you are or what the deal is. I had a couple of meetings last week with guys who paid $40 a meg for bandwidth. Oh my God, that's cheap. And they've got a year to run on their contract. Everyone's buying for 10. Screw, they're paying 4 times. The market is moving at such rates. If you sign anything up for a lot of people these days, if you have a building with embedded fibre, throw it into a pool. I'm not saying build and charge no contracts for something you have to roll out a lot of capex for. But when you've got a lot, I mean, Vocus here, the presentation earlier, thousands of buildings that is infrastructure in. You're going to charge me up to 3 years? Sorry, no. I mean, I'm sorry, I'm loving people like FirstPath and a few of the others that are innovating. You can buy dark fibre by the day. There's a bit of a setup cost, but you can. And that's just the start of the industry. A lot of people are starting to do it. And I believe that everyone's going to go down that path. They're not going to have a choice. Just don't screw people for the fun of it when your infrastructure's in there to try and get that cream. You know? Get over trying to sell a customer everything. Telstra, open your network. One of the biggest reasons I took some very, very large, I've taken millions and millions and millions away from Telstra over the past several years. Not because I hate Telstra. I actually love Telstra. I love working with them. They give me quite a lot of business. But when customers want to build multi-carrier diverse networks, Telstra is one of the only people that can't sell anyone else's networks. Optus will sell Telstra, and mostly their own. But most of the other guys below that will sell anything they can get a hold of. You know, open up. Be willing to talk about other things. Like if you're going to build a network, like if Telstra takes Penn, makes it their own or their own cloud, and they're trying to sell only their own things, customers won't hang out, not for long. There's only so long you can fool them for before they'll see what everyone else has got access to. Join the other fabrics, participate in the marketplaces, know what your customer needs and how they buy. I have this saying at the moment is, the world is run by 12-year-olds, and that includes corporates, because they decide how people purchase. They decide what they want, when they want it, that goes up in the home, to the parents, SVOD, streaming video on demand, iTunes, everything, apps, you name it, that works its way into the workplace, which is just evident. They decide how it works, we get it a bit later. You have to think like that. Die. If you think you're too big, look at those names. That's just a couple of them. You know, they're all dead. You know, and some of them are still struggling and trying to figure out what's going on, but they're all dead. And there's probably another 100 names to that list who thought they were never going to die. I'm sure Nokia 8 years ago were going #1 on the planet. You know, now Microsoft's apparently even considering shutting them down, the actual handset area. You know, no one gives a crap about Windows phones. Too late. You know, and I'm not going to say that Google or even Apple are immune to some of these things. Look at everything that we used to look at, and some of these things that are dead now. There's always the next guy around the corner. If you think Telstra and Optus and all the big boys, I mean, Vocus used to be the challenger. Now they've moved up, but they're the ones having people biting, the piranhas biting at their ankles. The bigger you get, and that's going to happen, you're going to find a lot of smaller, quicker players. So the next 6 months, cloud ISPs, rapidly deployment, full service. More VXC fabrics are coming on demand and even faster. Vertically focused fabrics. Some of the ones I've been consulting for are targeting very specific industry, enterprise, government, education. So fabrics that interconnect. And I'll tell you now, I'll be open with you, I've met with some of the government aggregated providers, and they can't wait. I've been talking, I won't say which federal or state governments, and it's not just Australia either, the fact that they don't have to buy off a Telstra or an incumbent or other things, they'll want to be able to buy anything they want on demand. Marketplace maturity is happening more and more and more. As soon as the marketplaces make a launch. There's a lot more wholesale products offering value add. End customer awareness, we see how everyone's buying. streaming video on demand is one of the biggest growing, fastest things, and it's teaching people, and people keep claiming, oh, things will last a while, analog TV is dead. And Mark's talk before was great, but my main job that I do a lot at the moment is I'm a futurist. I don't look about today, I don't look about tomorrow, I look about the day after. I actually don't much care about Netflix or Presto or Stan. I care about the 2 to 3 million immigrants in Australia and the 1,000 SVOD providers across the planet that are going to be bringing content into these countries. I'm working on one at the moment for the Indian, Pakistan, Nepalese communities. 500,000 in Australia. Building a CDN to do the Netflix for that. You can replicate that times 100 just thinking about that across this planet. And we are one of the most multicultural countries in the world. Think of the amount of data that's going to come in here, transit, peering, international capacity, and then get down those pipes. And bringing those types of services into traditionally a bit of old school thinking, like that community was into satellite dishes, that's all going. They all know, and these are the people that 3 billion, I actually really love looking at that market of 3 billion, which is China down to India and those areas, and what's coming. You think Netflix is a problem at the moment, and infrastructure and the way people are buying, because that's got a lot of influence in a lot of different ways. Done.
Excellent. Great. Okay, thanks, Skeeve. Excellent stuff. So.